On the western edge of South Africa's Karoo, a war is being fought over unassuming but extremely rare plants.
It is a war. It's the same war that the guys are fighting with the rhinos. It's a green war. Just the color of the plants. We used to call, at a stage, it was called green gold.
These succulents grow only here. The genus may appear elsewhere in the world, but these species are found nowhere else on Earth. They grow at a crawl, some surviving on nothing but the coastal mist. A single cluster can be 300 to 400 years old.
Currently we're standing in the Knersvlakte Nature Reserve. A lot of them actually don't even get rain, they survive on mist, and that's what makes them so sought after by the collectors.
A cultivated succulent is worth little. It's the wild plant the collector wants. Weathered, misshapen by centuries, a cluster of 20 or 30 heads that took 300 years to form. And once the rarest was stripped, the poachers simply moved on. To the dwarf euphorbias, then to whatever else was rare. More than 600 species are now targeted.
That cluster is 300-400 years old, and then it's sort of, okay, now we've seen something else that also looks nice and interesting. And then it went into the euphorbia species, the dwarf euphorbias, not necessarily your big euphorbias, because the target markets are the eastern countries and Europe, where they do not have a lot of space.
For the collector, the whole appeal is the shape.
That's the main attraction actually, is the weird shapes of the plants. That's what makes them collectible. So there's spiky ones, and there's round ones, and there's see-through ones, and there's quite a broad collector's spectrum that the succulents actually cater for.
Well done.
Gram for gram, these plants are now worth more than rhino horn. 5 kilograms of horn is a single animal. 5 kilograms of succulents can be 600 living plants. And a single specimen fetches anywhere from 300 to 20,000 rand. 7 species are already gone, not endangered, extinct, in the wild, forever. 7. Imagine every species of rhino wiped from the earth and barely anyone noticing.
Initially they utilize Facebook. A lot of Facebook connections. You will have a Chinese gentleman based in Hong Kong with 20, 25, 30 friends in the Mackerland, basically sending them a photograph. Do you know this plant? And the guy would say, yeah, I know it. And to ask him, okay, I'll offer you so much.
A price is agreed, and the conversation moves to WhatsApp, where it becomes GPS pins dropped on individual plants in the veld. Then the teams come. 8, 10 people at a time, moving across a site with brooms, sweeping it clean. Most of what they lift will never survive the journey, even if recovered by authorities.
And a lot of those plants don't survive. We had a case 2 months ago where we caught a guy at the Clover Way Bridge that had a Orthona species that was the last in the Richtersveld. That was the last population of that field, and I cleaned out the Richtersveld because those plants actually grow physically between the rocks. And they actually broke open the rocks to get to those plants.
And this is only what gets caught. Over 1.5 million plants recovered, and the people doing the recovering believe that's barely a quarter of what actually leaves the veld. The rest goes out by the truckload. Bakkies full. You would think a rescued plant could simply go back. It can't. Seized plants arrive with no record of where they were taken. And a succulent only survives in the exact ground it came from. Worse, every colony carries its own genetic signature. Return a plant to the wrong one and you don't save the species, you contaminate it.
If you don't have a specific dead down location, you cannot replant them anywhere. except in that location. They're not going to make it.
It will ruin the species integrity in the long run.
Okay, the N7 is the main route travelling between the Northern Cape and the Western Cape. We catch a lot of in transit. Last year they caught a guy that had 3 rhino horns and a great amount of succulents with them. And it's not where, it's just up the road in Namaqualand.
This is organised crime. The same syndicates behind rhino horn, abalone and drugs now run succulents. And the poachers are sometimes paid in the drugs they carry back. The chain runs from the Northern Cape, down the N7 to Cape Town. Then out through Mozambique and Tanzania, before landing with collectors in the East, Europe and the United States. The precious cargo papered over at every border with falsified permits.
And the structure that's involved in facilitating the movement of these plants, the falsifying of documentation, the under declaring or not declaring of species. Now you want to tell me that's not organised crime? And you will be surprised to find out how these things are facilitated, which I'm not going to say at this stage. Because it's organised crime, and these syndicates are not scared. You see what happens to some of the syndicate members of rhino horn poachers. They get taken out. Even the main organisers get taken out by their competition. So these guys don't have any scruples about taking out people. And if it means they're taking out a ranger or an officer, they will do it. Because if you start messing with their income, they're not happy about it. Most of them are armed with dangerous weapons, pangas, long knives, AK-47 bayonets. We've caught 1 or 2 guys that have been in jail on numerous accounts. They are members of the 26 or 28 gangs. So yeah, we're not working with some of it are petty criminals, but we're also working with some serious criminals.
To understand the poaching, you have to understand the place. This is a region hollowed out by closing mines and deep unemployment. And when COVID took away what little work was left, the poaching surged. For a man with no income, a few thousand rand for 3 nights in the veld is not a hard choice.
Okay, we're going to make a quick buck. 2-3 nights in the veld, we can make a few thousand rand, which is in an area where with high unemployment, it's fairly easy to recruit the guys.
And it's getting harder to stop. A shopping bag of seed, 50 to 70,000 of them, is far easier to smuggle than a truckload of plants. But take the seed and you take the next generation. The same networks now run reptiles too, across 6 or 7 countries.
So yes, I've seen species go almost extinct within 2 years of the volume of poaching that is happening.
Asking a nursery for their license. Educate yourself and just expose yourself a bit to what South Africa has to offer in terms of endemics and indigenous succulent species. They are special. You know, I think there's been a misconception that succulents were for omas and opas. That's the kind of thing. You saw that on the stoep and back in the day, and nobody liked them because it reminds you of drought and horrible pots and everything. But it's quite, if you just open yourself up to experience them, it's something special.
Stopping this takes what conservation always lacks: money, people, and time. Thermal drones, night stakeouts, the patience to sit 10 hours in the dark. The resources are thin, but slowly the people behind the networks are being found.
It's a little bit more of cooperation, more willingness to commit some more resources in the shape of either human resources and then also some equipment resources things like thermal drones would make a hell of a difference to our nights, but it's costly. This type of operation, if you start doing stakeouts, you're talking about 8 to 10 hours sitting in the veld. You will be able to reduce it, but you will never stop it. What we are doing is not just a job, it's a passion. And my small bit of contribution to conservation is trying to put as many of these poachers behind bars, or recover as many succulents and reptiles what we can. Because if you start getting despondent, you're not gonna be able to do the job. Yes, we are winning, slowly but surely.